Oh,
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you July 12th, 2023. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meeting of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the State Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Department of Education, Secretary of State's office, and notice has been given to the House Press Corps, the Governor's Office, and the State Board agenda subscribers. And as a quorum is present, this meeting will now come to order. May I please have a motion?
so moved.
So moved.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And Dr. Ricca, did you like to second it?
Second.
Thank you so much. And now we'll move on to executive session. Whereas, in order to protect the personal privacy and to avoid situations wherein the public interest might be disserved, the Open Public Meetings Act permits public bodies to exclude the public from that portion of a meeting at which certain matters are discussed. Now, therefore, please be it resolved that consistent with the provision of NJSA 10:4-12B, the State Board of Education will now adjourn to executive session to discuss personnel and legal matters. May I please have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you. I heard Ms. Board Member Berry first, and may I please have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Sylvia seconded it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The meeting will now go into executive session, and we will be back by 10 o'clock, hopefully. So plan on that. Thank you very much. you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. So happy to see you here. I'd like to reconvene and resume our public meeting at this point. Whereas consistent with the provision of NJSA 10:4-12B, the State Board will now adjourn from an executive session to resume the open session of this meeting. May I please have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Board Member Berry. May I please have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Board Member Sylvia. May I please ask everyone who feels comfortable rising to do so for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Board Member Sylvia will lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, welcome back. I'd like to thank you again for joining us today in Trenton. It's wonderful to see you in person, and we have also remote capabilities, and we have our board members also online with us and remote, and we have the public remote. So I'd like to turn the meeting at this time over, please, to Acting Commissioner Alan McMillan to oversee the election for the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, President Goldenberg, and good morning, all. Today, we will hold the annual election of the State Board of Education officers for the period of July 2023 through June 2024. State law NJSA 18A:4-8 requires that the State Board of Education organize at its first regular meeting following June 30th of every year with the election of a president and a vice president. As Secretary of the State Board, it is my responsibility to conduct the election. I'd like to move to nominations. And President Kathy Goldenberg has selected the nominating committee. The nominating committee members are Ms. Gazy, who is the chair, and Ms. Berry and Ms. Sylvia. The committee presented its slate at the June public meeting. At this time, I ask, are there any nominations from the floor for president? Hearing none, I ask at this time, are there any nominations from the floor for vice president? Hearing none, I would like to ask the nominated candidates if they are willing to accept the nominations and serve in the positions for which they have been nominated should they be elected. There not being any further nominations, the nominations are closed. And I'd like to move forward by saying that the election will be conducted by a voice vote. Yes or no will be your responses, or an aye or nay. The candidates will be voted on individually in order in which they have been nominated. All in favor of Kathy Goldenberg as president of the State Board of Education signify by saying yes or aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is carried. All in favor of Andrew Mulvihill as Vice President of the State Board signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is carried. Congratulations, President Goldenberg and Vice President Mulvihill, on your election to lead the State Board of Education.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor, and I want to thank my fellow board members for nominating and electing both Vice President Mulvihill and myself to serve. It's an absolute honor, and New Jersey is, in my opinion, the best state for education in the country. And thank you very, very much. Thank you.
And I'd like to just add, I wish to congratulate the state board leadership, President Goldenberg and Vice President Mulvihill, on their re-elections for the 2023-2024 school year. I look forward to continuing to work with you for the benefit of our educators, staff, and students across the state. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Commissioner. Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead with the meeting now. I'd like to ask if I could have, well, for the approval of the minutes for June 7th, and there are no members that are here that need to abstain, as they were here for the June 7th meeting. May I please have a motion to accept the minutes as they are?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you very much. Any conversation or statements about the minutes at this time? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. As far as public testimony this month, the State Board will not receive public testimony as there are no topics for discussion. For the month of August, the State Board will also not receive testimony as there are no topics scheduled. Public testimony will resume in September. Please check the State Board website for all updates on this. I would like and have the privilege of now introducing our new student representative for the State Board. May I please give the floor to Ms. Nellie Ghosh. Thank you. We have her this year she's a rising junior at West Windsor Plainsboro High School in Mercer County. Nellie, good morning and welcome. I'd also like to take a moment, please, to acknowledge and thank your advisor, Dr. Matt Gore, for being here. Mr. Matt Gore for being here. If you'd rise, please, also. Thank you. Thank you. And I understand we have a driver, Joseph. I didn't catch your last name. I'm sorry, but thank you very, very much for bringing them. Would you like to please have the floor? Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, President Goldenberg, and good morning, everyone. My name is Nellie Ghosh, and I am a rising junior at West Windsor Plainsboro High School North. I'd like to use this time to talk a little about who I am. As the incoming student rep, as you may know, I also serve as a state officer for the New Jersey Association of Student Councils. One of the biggest projects that state officers tackle is organizing our annual leadership training conference known as LTC. A few weeks ago, we had a staff training session where we experienced a LTC curriculum class from the attendees' perspectives. In the class, called Leadership Styles, delegates identified their type of leadership, and through this exercise, students are able to student leaders learn how they can play into their specific strengths and combat their weaknesses. There were 4 archetypes: the race car, the iron, the top hat, and the Scotty dog. My leadership style aligned most dominantly with the Scotty dog. This archetype is characterized as loyal, caring, passionate, sympathetic, and optimistic. They are known to assume a family spirit and want the best for those around them. This experience was meaningful to me as it deepened my understanding of myself. I better understood the positive aspects of my character, what I need to improve, and what values I hold close. I realized that good character has always been important to me, and I believe this was heavily shaped by my elementary school experience where good character was emphasized. I even remember winning the Class Friendliness Award in 4th grade. So in sort of a ripple effect, perhaps a simple desire to be friendly led to my journey with student government, a journey that has also shaped me significantly. In middle school, looking to help out and get involved, I joined student council. Going into high school, I served as class president during my freshman year, and I'm grateful for all that it taught me. It prompted me to acquire a lot of important skills very early on: communication, collaboration, detail-oriented planning, and it enabled me to contribute that much more to the other activities I pursued. This upcoming year, I will be serving on my student council's executive board and in officer positions for my school's JSA chapter, which stands for Junior States, State of America, a debate or public speaking organization. I will be serving in an officer position for Key Club, Kiwanis Empowers You, a service-oriented organization, and Homefront Club. I always aim to grow through these different leadership opportunities, and I know there is so much I will learn. I believe this opportunity to serve as the student rep will teach me many valuable lessons. As a young person who is gradually growing into herself, I am truly thankful for the growth I will experience, be it in my personal life, as a friend, an individual, or in my professional life as a student and leader. I aim to advocate for the 1.34 million students I represent to the very best of my ability. I truly believe in the saying, a servant leader is servant first, leader second. It is an honor to have the opportunity to be of service to so many of my peers. All that said, I must acknowledge that I have plenty of people to thank. First, Lauren Knopp, my predecessor, who has always been so warm to me and has steadily guided me through this transition. I must thank my school and the peers who supported me through the process of my NJASC election. I thank Mr. Gore, one of my teacher advisors, who is here with us today, and he gives up so much of his time to make this possible. He was also the one who initially prompted my interest in this office. I want to thank my family the most. They support me no matter how busy my schedule gets, and my family and friends guide me through difficulties and push me to be my very best. Finally, I want to thank the State Board of Education for providing me and a voice to young people. I'm excited for my term and eager to get to work. Thank you.
Marvelous.
We look forward to this year. You're going to be wonderful. It gets easier. And thank you very much for doing this role. We have so much anticipation for your contributions that are coming. So thank you. Any other comments from?
Sure.
Please, Sylvia, you have the floor.
First, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And if you ever wonder, ever, you are the most important person in this room. I loved all the things that you said and all the things that you bring with you, and particularly the class friendliness award in 4th grade. And I think that's so applicable now, having come out of what, or still coming out of what the international community has gone through over the last few years. I think the environment has changed, and I think that's a missing component. Like, I think doing so much stuff not face-to-face has kind of taken a little bit of the humanity out of people, and the things that you said are exactly the kind of leadership I think will restore that. So thank you for that in advance. No pressure.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm just going to jump in. I'm thrilled you're here. It's always bittersweet. We loved Lauren. We're so happy for her moving on. And every time we get another new student, I'm like, wow, how do they find all these great kids? Do you know why? Because there's great kids here. We have amazing young people in New Jersey, amazing young people. And I'm so thrilled that you're going to be the voice representing all of them. So we're going to look forward to hearing your opinions, asking you questions, and we're really just thrilled you're here. So thank you.
Thank you
Yes,
so
and on
much.
behalf of the Department of Education, I just want to welcome you once again and say how excited we are to have you here with us. Not only do we look forward to working with you, we look forward to learning from you. And so we're going to have a great year together.
going to be fun.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll go ahead, and if you would like to add to the conversations, just raise your hand and I'll call on you. Okay, next we're going to have information about our state board committees that had the opportunity to meet since our last meeting. On June 13th, we had an assessment committee meeting, and I believe Arcilio Aponte is online with us. I saw him a second ago. We'll wait till he comes back. Okay. The policy committee also met on June 19th. Elaine Bobrov is our chairperson. And if you could please speak to us about that meeting. Thank you. Board member Bobrov.
Pleasure. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. The policy committee met on June 19th. We had not met for a couple of months prior to that, so it was important to try to catch up with what was going on. The state board members in attendance via Microsoft Teams were Kathy Goldenberg, ex officio, Andy Mulvihill, Mary Beth Berry, and of course myself. Department staff in attendance via teleconference, Judy Bunt, Chris Huber, Kathy Ailing, Diana Pesciuli, Chris Irving, Tanisha Davis, Robert Gregory, Paula Bloom, Diane Schoner, and Beth Auerswald, and Stephanie Russo. I have to tell you that so many people put in so much effort to be able to pull all of this together, that all of them, worked together as partners in this. The subject of the meeting was first bilingual education, then something on praxis, which I'll talk about, and then we mentioned briefly chapter 7. The policy committee met on June 19th, 2023, to discuss the department's request for the state board to adopt revised customs excuse me, for praxis assessments in general science, biology, chemistry, physics, earth-based sciences, and computer sciences. These are the appropriate state tests of subject matter that are required for candidates to earn the qualifying endorsements to teach the subject matter. The resolution is on today's agenda for discussion, and so I will forego further description of the proposed changes. We also had brief discussions about the proposed readoptions with amendments of Chapter 15, which is about bilingual education, and Chapter 7, Managing for Equality and Equity in Education. Chapter 15 is on today's agenda. The comments received on Chapter 7 continue to be reviewed, and the proposal likely will be considered by the State Board at adoption level in August. I thank you for your time, and I thank all of those of you who were involved for your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your leadership. And now we'll go ahead. I think I see Arcilio's. Mr. Aponte, are you hearing us? Okay. We'll go ahead then in the meantime, and I'll switch over, if I could, to the Commissioner's report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, President Goldenberg, and good morning again, everyone. It is a pleasure to share with you our recent highlights, and I would like to begin by expressing sincere gratitude to Governor Murphy and the New Jersey Legislature for, once again, historic investment in education through the fiscal year 2024 budget. The Department of Education's budget totals $19.8 billion, an increase of a little over $1 billion, or 5.6% over the fiscal year 2023 adjusted appropriation of $18.76 billion. State aid to school districts for fiscal year 2024 is over $12.5 billion, an increase of $766 million over the fiscal year 2023 adjusted appropriation. This includes reallocations of aid through the school funding formula. Funding will also be provided to support the continued expansion of preschool programs, and existing districts will receive a per pupil increase applied to their projected enrollments. Funding will be provided to support charter school aid to ensure that the funding each charter school receives in fiscal year 2024 is not less than the 2023 funding on a total revenue basis. Direct state payments for education is $6 billion in fiscal year 2024. Aid will support the cost of teachers' pensions, post-retirement medical benefits, and Social Security payments. Additional departmental initiatives in the 2024 budget includes a $3 million appropriation to support investment in community schools, to provide health care and other non-academic community resources co-located within schools. The budget also includes funding to help ensure New Jersey has the trained and dedicated workforce to provide top quality education to our public school students for years into the future, including $2 million for culture and climate innovation grants to help address educator quality of life issues, $1 million to develop local partnerships for paraprofessional training, $1 million for a public media campaign, and $500,000 to expand the Teacher Leader Network. Additionally, on July 1st, Governor Murphy announced a certification fee holiday for all New Jersey educator certificates and associated fees. In collaboration with the governor, the Department of Education has eliminated all certification fees from July 1 of 2023 through June 30th of 2024. The goal of the fee holiday is to bolster the teaching profession and recognize the invaluable contributions of educators. The fee holiday initiative aims to alleviate a financial burden for both current and aspiring educators in the state of New Jersey. As we continue to move through the month of July, we have celebrated our country's independence and are well into summer vacation time for many of our education professionals. We do acknowledge their hard work leading up to this well-deserved hiatus, and as a reminder that the remainder of the summer allows for some relaxation. The department will take time this month to recognize Social Wellness Month, promote summer learning and safety, and continue to work on programs and initiatives to prepare for the upcoming 2023-2024 school year. Our work remains to ensure continued progress and success of our educators, students, and communities. The department continues to review grant applications for a share of $350 million for high priority capital projects for regular operating districts, also known as ROD grants. As previously shared in June, these grants are made possible through legislation signed in 2022 by Governor Murphy, with the goal of addressing critical operational building needs in more than 550 regular operating school districts in the state. Once eligibility has been determined, funding will be executed through the New Jersey School Development Authority to the districts. Now, I will highlight my ICYMI in case you missed it. This update will highlight recent initiatives and outreach that demonstrate our continued efforts to support New Jersey students and educators. Our social media efforts in June marked Pride Month, honoring the LGBTQ+ community and their ongoing contributions to society. We continue to recognize the good news in schools with our hashtag Good News in Schools Good News in NJ Schools campaign. As graduates and honors were bestowed on our students and educators during the month of June. Additionally, we continue to work with the New Jersey Partnership for Student Success to promote affiliated resource documents and information for potential volunteers. And if you have not volunteered, please consider doing so. We need you. In mid-June, the department issued information on Chapter 9 to stakeholders via broadcast and social media channels to ensure that every student, school, and district have access to well-trained, effective educators who meet the needs of their communities, as well as to increase diversity in the supply of educators, all while maintaining New Jersey's high standards for educators. We issued the second monthly newsletter on June 21st for our teachers in the online teacher toolkit. The NJDOE monthly teacher newsletter provides information and resources to educators, along with messages from New Jersey's Teacher of the Year, information on the services provided by the department and our various program offices, as well as helpful resources for everything from instruction, supports, and aids to professional development. The toolkit can be accessed from the department's homepage by clicking on the word educators in the blue bar at the top to access the latest newsletter. Thank you, President Goldenberg, for allowing me to share the updates.
Terrific. Thank you so much. There are no questions on that information. We can go ahead then with the items for consideration.
Thank you very much, President Goldenberg.
Oh, I see, excuse me, I see.
Yes.
Mr. Aponte, if he
Absolutely.
could just give his report, that would be lovely. Thank
Well,
you.
that's great, but let me first begin by congratulating the commissioner on all great work. Congratulations on securing additional funding in the budget and for the teacher certification, which is critical to promote, you know, attracting additional teachers to the state or continuing to retain the teachers that we do have. So congratulations on all the great work there, Commissioner. President Goldenberg, the assessment committee did meet on June 13th. In attendance were state board members, President Goldenberg, Vice President Mulvihill, Dr. Ned Johnson, and Mary Beth Berry. Essentially, the assessment committee met to discuss the adjustment to the dynamic learning maps, cut scores. Our committee discussion correlates to today's agenda items, so we're going to go deeper into this discussion later on the agenda. So I will wait until we have this item discussed to add additional comments. So no further discussion for this report. Thank you, President Goldenberg.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. And so now,
Yes.
if we could.
Thank you. Items for consideration. Item A, appointments. I do not have personnel recommendations today, and we'll move forward to item B. Item B, certification of school districts. Since the November State Board meeting, the executive county superintendents have finalized 24 NJQSAC evaluations for districts. I am recommending 8 of these districts for certification. And Dr. Irving, Assistant Commissioner of the Division of Field Support and Services, is here to offer the list of districts for certification, along with Ms. Spates, who is our New Jersey QSAC Coordinator in the Division of Field Support and Services, who will then respond to any questions. Dr. Irving?
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, State Board members, President Goldenberg, Vice President Mulvihill, and the rest of the State Board. Today, Ms. Spade will present to you the 8 districts that are up for approval. As you all are firmly aware, we have concluded. Does that get closer?
That's
Sorry.
better.
We have concluded our QSAC review process for this academic year. And over the course of the next few months, State Board meetings, you'll be seeing Ms. Spade and myself come to you all to let you know about the success rate of QSAC and the districts that have moved forward. So without further ado, I'll turn over to Ms. Spade to review the districts.
The districts for certification are Stone Harbor School District, Essex County Schools of Technology, Clayton Public School District, Monroe Township School District, Delaware Township School District, Tewksbury Township School District, Robbinsville Public School District, and Warren Hills Regional School District.
Thank you. Any questions?
Are you gonna, so I'm looking at the list we have, Appendix A. I see there's a grand total of 20 districts, and 12 of those are not certified. And I actually had some questions about the fact that it seems like the area of instruction and program was where everyone was falling short. They weren't making the 80%. Is there any thoughts as to why? That's a pretty big list of school districts that are not being certified. Is, what are we thinking about that? Especially since it is really looking at instruction and programming is where everyone's falling short.
Sure. Our county offices, and as you all know, our county superintendents and our county office staff are the individuals who go through the CUSAC review process. And I will tell you, Ms. Berry, the county superintendents continue to, our ed specialists and the county staff are committed to working with districts to see improvements in instruction and program as we move through. These reviews will be followed up with an interim review as well. And I assure you that the conversation around instruction and around student achievement is ongoing from the county office and to the local districts. And so while we see the 8 here and those districts who may have not moved forward, the department is committed to supporting through the county offices those districts to indeed see the successes that we know we want.
And so when we're looking at increase in funding, I saw $1.5 million are going towards the New Jersey Tutoring Corp. And Commissioner made a reference to the New Jersey Partnership for Student Success. It sounds to me like kids are needing that extra tutoring and to get back online, because I'm looking at these districts that didn't make it. They make the 80%, they would have if it hadn't been for instruction and programming. So I want to make sure that we're tapping into, especially with these districts, making sure that that's where that tutoring is going, that extra academic support is being targeted there. And we talked about summer. Are there special programs? Are there any things that are really online that they're doing, any opportunities for young people to get some extra academics during the summer months? Everybody needs a break, I know, but some of these schools are significantly low. Are we targeting them over the summer to try and make sure that they're able to get a little extra support, so when the school year starts, we can get people, raise these scores up?
Thank you. So we continue to facilitate conversations in our counties to share promising practices and to ensure that as an agency through our broadcast system that we share promising practices from across the state. And so over the last 3 years, we've continued to hold technical assistance trainings for summer learning and have found a decrease in attendance because districts now understand what works in an endemic world. They're working to implement it. And so our balance is to ensure that there's an equal focus on the emotional well-being as well as the academic prowess of the students, hence the Social Wellness Month, because we know that when you are
Looks like we lost the link. I'll text Diane to let her know.
Thank you for your patience. So we're going to rewind 90 seconds of our last bit before we were interrupted. And basically, I believe we've already not voted yet, but we were beginning to discuss the certifications of the recommendations and questions about how we're moving forward with those that need additional help, and that was well answered. And And I think that's where we were. I believe if I could ask Dr. Ned Johnson had his hand up, if he would be willing at this point to go ahead unless his question was already answered. Dr. Johnson, you have the floor.
Mrs. Berry posed most
Okay.
of the same types
Well,
of
if you
questions.
do come back on, you'll let me know. And in the meantime, we'll continue with our reports. Please, I think at this point, we need to go ahead and ask if there are any other questions. Did we do a motion before we were interrupted? Not yet. All right, so are there any other questions? Not yet. So may I please have a motion to accept, I believe there were 8 certified, yes, 8 districts recommended for certification.
So moved.
Motion.
Thank you. I heard a motion from Board Member Sylvia. I'm not sure who said so moved. I didn't ask yet for the second, but if it was Dr. Ricca, you got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments at this time? All right. So for the district, Stone Harbor, Essex County School of Technology, Clayton Public School District, Monroe Township Public School District, Delaware Township School District, Tewksbury Township School District, Robbinsville Public School District, and Warren Hills Regional School District. We have a motion on the table to accept them. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed, please signify by saying nay. And are there any abstentions at this time? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the explanations.
Yes, thank you.
And now we're ready to go to item C. Thank you.
Today, I am pleased to present for consideration at adoption level, the readoption with amendments of Chapter 15, Bilingual Education. Mrs. Ailing, Assistant Commissioner for the Division of Educational Services, will present an overview summary of the proposed changes and respond to your questions. Mrs. Ailing?
Thank you. Should we wait for the presentation to come up?
Please.
Good morning, President Goldenberg and members of the board. I am excited to be here today to present the proposed amendments at adoption level for Chapter 15. As a reminder, the proposed amendments fall into 4 main categories, which are detailed on the slide. The proposals shift our existing code language to an asset-based lens, which includes updating definitions, including preschoolers in the multilingual learner identification process, providing needed clarity around program requirements, and building the capacity of our educators. Throughout the entire code adoption process, which did begin in October of 2022, we have received hundreds of comments from various stakeholders, including parents, superintendents, principals, teachers, and advocacy groups. Overall, stakeholders were in support of the proposed changes. In general, they commended the department for shifting to an asset-based perspective for our multilingual learners who enter our New Jersey schools with such rich cultural and linguistic assets. We also heard from our stakeholders who provided insightful and practical perspectives on how changes to Chapter 15 would impact school instruction and services on a day-to-day basis. We heard them, listened, and made updates to the proposed amendments to be responsive to districts who support multilingual learner success in our schools. This slide highlights the changes that are being proposed at adoption. First, we are proposing minor language updates to clarify definitions. We are also proposing to remove language from Step 3 of the identification process because it is already included in Step 2, and that was confusing to the field. We are proposing a change in the language that sets forth the timing for identifying our preschoolers, and this again was based on feedback from the comments we received. We are changing from beginning in July to prior to the start of their kindergarten year. We received feedback from the field questioning whether a separate curriculum was required for bilingual education programs, so we are proposing changes to clarify that a separate bilingual curriculum is not expected, but rather bilingual education programs must be aligned to the New Jersey Student Learning Standards, English Language Development Standards, and the use of 2 languages. This slide highlights 2 important changes that I will provide more detail on in the next few slides. These changes, again, are being proposed based on stakeholder input. The first change clarifies the requirement that all school districts with a high school adopt a policy which addresses how multilingual learners may earn credit in world language and/or English language arts through their ESL classes. The second change addresses dual language immersion programs. This section K is a new section to the proposed amendments. Stakeholders asked that the department adopt a uniform approach for all school districts by ensuring that credit received in one New Jersey high school would transfer to another New Jersey high school. The department agreed that it was necessary to provide clear notice on how our multilingual learners can meet graduation requirements and whether they may apply credit earned in ESL classes to their world language or English language arts requirements. To ensure the department is being responsive to concerns from the field, that language is being amended from may develop and adopt a policy to say a district shall establish a process for how multilingual learners in high school may meet graduation requirements. The second agency-initiated change is the inclusion of language which clarifies that the teacher certification requirements in Chapter 15 only apply to programs designed to meet the language instruction education program requirements of this chapter. There was confusion in the field about whether the certification requirements applied to all dual language immersion programs. Many districts in our state have dual language immersion programs that are not designed to meet the requirements of multilingual learners. They may have multilingual learners in the program, but those students receive separate ESL instruction that meets the requirements of Chapter 15. These are programs that may teach all students Mandarin Chinese, for example. The programs are exciting and rigorous, but they are not designed to meet the needs of multilingual learners, and therefore they're not subject to the requirements of this chapter. The proposed amendments at adoption will afford school districts the staffing flexibility that was originally intended, while maintaining the certification requirements necessary for our multilingual learners. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Board members, are there questions? I appreciate the changes and the tweaks that were made, because when we heard public testimony, there were some very good ideas. So thank you for that.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I did have a question. If you could go back to slide 5.
Oh, sorry, that's me. Yes.
Just was curious as to, excuse me, the alignment of shall and removal of may, but it says in high school they may meet the language. Any reason why it wasn't shall there also?
Yes, and that is intentional because it depends on whether or not the world language class, the ELA class, and the ESL class all meet certain requirements. So not every ESL class will meet the requirements for an ELA, English Language Arts class, because there are standards that have to be in place in order to ensure that the ESL class is rigorous enough and includes all of the content, is taught the appropriate way in order for it to meet a world language or an ELA requirement. So the high school and the district has to ensure that that policy that they have looks at all of those classes to ensure that all of the separate requirements are being met, so that they can be interchangeable. So that is a may. Not every ESL class will meet the requirements for a world language or an ELA, but where they do, we want to ensure that those credits are able to be transferred.
I'm sorry, that was on page 5?
Yes. With the yellow highlighting?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
The
That was Dr. Ned Johnson who was speaking, for those of you who would like to have a name with that. Dr. Johnson, did you have other questions prior to this? Because I think you had your hand up previously also with the certification of high schools.
I did, but most of my questions were already answered by Mrs. Berry's questions.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We'll move forward then with any other questions about the bilingual education adoption at this time from our board members. Hearing none, may I ask for a motion, please?
Motion.
Thank you very much, Board Member Sylvia. May I please have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Barry. May I please ask if there's any further questions or discussions or comments at this time? Hearing none, we'll go ahead to the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? I believe the motion carries unanimously. Director Schoner, thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Ayling,
Appreciate
your
it.
And thank you. I'd like to
division.
thank the board for their support. We're just so excited to be able to put these changes into practice, so thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Great job. Thank you. Item D, President Goldenberg, if I may.
Please.
Today I present for your consideration a recommendation to modify the dynamic learning maps, also referred to as a DLM, for English language arts and mathematics related to the cut scores to adapt to changes made to the assessments. The DLM assessments are the alternate assessments designed for students with the most significant intellectual disabilities and are intended to be administered to no more than 1% of New Jersey student population, per the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, E-S-S-A. Dr. Schiff, Assistant Commissioner for the Division of Teaching and Learning Services, and Mr. Bakzani, Director of the Office of Assessments, will present the cut score modification as established by the DLM Consortium and respond to your questions. Dr. Schiff, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon, President Goldenberg and members of the State Board of Education. Today, John Bozani and I would like to present an update to the Dynamic Learning Map, or DLM, assessment cut scores. The Dynamic Learning Maps, or DLM, is a computer adaptive assessment designed for the most significantly cognitively disabled students. The DLM serves as the alternative assessment for both the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment and the New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment as required by regulations. With this, the DLM is administered to all students who qualify for this assessment in grades 3 through 8 and 11 for English language arts and mathematics. For science, the DLM is administered in grades 5, 8, and 11, mirroring the NJSLA Science Administration. As the Commissioner indicated, by the Every Student Succeeds Act, it is the intent that New Jersey will administer the DLM alternate assessment to approximately 1% of our student population. New Jersey was one of the founding members of the DLM consortium back in 2010 and began administering the ELA and mathematics assessments in the 2014-2015 school years. I will now like to pass the presentation to the Director of Assessment, Mr. Bozani, who will discuss the changes to the DLM assessment. Mr. Bozani.
Thank you, Dr. Schiff. The DLM Consortia recently made some changes to the test design of the assessment. They reduced the number of topics within the assessment to allow for a deeper dive into each of the topics. As a result, the total possible score is lower, and in turn, the cut scores were reduced proportionally to ensure the rigor of the assessment remains consistent with the initial design of the assessment. In a moment, we will share the cut scores for both the English language arts and mathematics. We wish to first emphasize a few important points. New Jersey has historically utilized the adopted consortium-approved cut scores for DLM. As part of the consortium, it is expected that member states would utilize these values. It is important to note that the cut scores were proportionally adjusted so that the test was not any easier or more difficult than prior to this change. The adjustments to the assessments were done to be able to provide more actionable information to districts and parents to support the students in their learning process. This chart shows the scores between the 4 performance levels: emerging, approaching, target, and advanced for English language arts. The cut scores listed on this chart indicate the score a student would need to achieve to be considered in each of the 4 performance levels. Included in the chart is both the original as well as the adjusted cut scores. For example, at grade 7, we can see the cut score between the emerging and approaching levels has been reduced from 27 to 18. Between the approaching and the target, from 52 to 37, and from the target to the advanced, from 73 to 53. Although the cut score has been reduced, the standard for identifying a student's performance level as emerging, approaching, target, or advanced has not changed. And the reason the standard has not changed is that the reduction was done proportionally to the change in the test design. This slide shows the changes to the mathematics cut score. Similar to what we saw in English language arts, reductions in the cut scores are proportional to the changes in the test design and do not affect a student's ability to achieve any of the DLM performance levels. I'd like to take a moment to highlight grade 4 in the mathematics, where we see that the cut score between the emerging and approaching has been reduced from 20 to 10, approaching and target from 30 to 17, and then from the target to the advanced, 56 to 30.
We thank you for your time, and we would be happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask a question?
Mary
When-
Beth Berry, you have the floor.
When we're talking about reducing the number of topics, what about how many topics were there in the past, and what are the number of topics that are currently proposed?
So I'm going to flip back to the ELA tables to use as a reference to answer. In grade 3 English language arts, previously there was 80 points that the student would be able to earn. On the current version of the assessment, there are 50 points the student would be able to earn. So in that reduction, the cut scores of the 50 between approaching and target, and then the 71 between the target and advanced would be unachievable if the adjustment in the cut scores did not occur.
So can you give us a number of topics then? What, when we're saying proportional, reduce the number of topics, what are an example of some of the topics that they're covering right now?
So dynamic learning maps is very unique in its test design. It is not specific just on points and a built test. It is a computer adaptive assessment built on a learning map based on linkage levels. And these linkage levels are tied to the dynamic learning map standards for the student population.
So are they IEP driven? I maybe wasn't.
It is the IEP requirements that will enable a student to be eligible for this assessment.
So in an IEP, an individualized education plan, the plan has goals and objectives that a student's supposed to be meeting. As I'm understanding this, and I read this again, I just wanted to make sure, if it sounds like it's driven for each student, correct? This assessment?
It is adaptive that each student will receive questions appropriate to their ability level.
Okay, so so if we're reducing the number of topics, are we still making sure that we're measuring all of the goals that would be listed in the IEP?
Yes, the apologies, the intent of the test and what it was measuring is still applicable for measuring the students' knowledge on the standards that they're being taught. It does still apply to the standards. They are just sampling fewer of the standards each year.
So if I may, just to be clear, and I think President Goldenberg wanted to ask, if you're not speaking, if you could mute, and thank you very much, but to maybe answer the question specifically, you spoke about the number of topics, and we are, I think, talking about the number of items on the test. So the number of topics is what she specifically, Board Member Berry is requesting, while the number of items went from 80 to 50. Are we still assessing across that same swath of topics, or has the list of topics that comprise the assessment also changed? And if we don't have that, we can get back to her with that information.
The topics that a student will see does vary in the adaptability of the assessment. And with the DLM, the educator that's going to be administering the test to the student fills out a survey at the beginning that would start to indicate what would be they felt the most appropriate starting point for the student, which also plays into the amount of topics that individual student will see.
Board Member Berry, I think it's also important to note that this is a federal requirement for federal accountability, that all students, even those students who are significantly cognitively impaired, also are assessed in ways that have some similarities to our typical.
Madam President, if I could also mention that I recall from our discussion during the assessment committee meeting was that this is more of a customized test for this less than 1% of the student population. And as has been mentioned, recognizing that each of the students start from a different starting point, and this is aligned to their IEPs. The cut scores that were presented, I believe by and large, were acceptable to the committee members, and again, the information provided by the department clarified, at least for us, the strategy behind these scores, and again, we found it to be acceptable.
Are there other questions at this time?
Thanks, Arcilio. That was actually what I was wondering. I appreciate that input.
Could you speak into the microphone a bit more? Thank you. Thank you.
I was just saying thank you to Arcilio. That was actually my question. So that gives me confidence in it. Thank you.
Thank you. We do a lot of in-depth looks in our committee meetings, and it's a good question. But we did discuss this at length about what it means for individual students and making sure that they had the ability to succeed when it was based on their particular individual's learning plans. So thank you. How about any other questions at this time? Hearing none, we'll go ahead if there's no vote on that. So we could go ahead to the next item, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Bozan. Okay, so I'm moving to item E, and today I present for consideration a resolution to establish revised praxis content knowledge assessments and qualifying scores for biology, chemistry, earth and space sciences, general science, and physics. The successful completion of a subject matter assessment is one measure that ensures educators seeking endorsements have demonstrated an appropriate level of subject matter expertise to offer instruction in the content area. Additionally, I am requesting consideration for the implementation of the new computer science praxis content knowledge assessment and qualifying scores, which will be implemented due to the revisions of the Chapter 9 regulations. I would like to thank the State Board of Education again for the innovative and important revisions to those 4 chapters. Dr. Irving, Assistant Commissioner for the Division of Field Support and Services, and Mrs. Bloom, Executive Director in that division, are here to present the resolution and will respond to your questions. Dr. Irving.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Good to see you all again. This morning, Ms. Bloom and I are here to discuss the resolution to adopt the revised Praxis Content Knowledge Assessments. Pursuant to NJAC 6A9B, it requires candidates seeking certain endorsements to pass and take the state test on the subject matter knowledge, which ensures that teachers have a strong command of the content by which they are going to teach to our students. The State Board of Education adopts the appropriate assessment and qualifying scores for these assessments. The test vendor, known as ETS or Educational Testing Services, annually engages experts in education to review these tests and the content that are within them with regard to the standards. The purpose of standard setting studies are to identify the minimum level of knowledge qualified for entry into the teaching profession and to reconfirm the relevance of the test context when it comes to teachers in New Jersey. Ms. Bloom?
Thanks, Dr. Irving. So the Praxis Content Knowledge Science tests have been revised to reflect updates in the field of teacher preparation standards and next generation science standards. The revised versions for each science area include a change in weighting of the sub-areas and integration of at least one, but in most cases, multiple science engineering practices identified in the next generation science standards. The new computer science praxis was developed by experts in computer science and computer science education. Candidates seeking the new computer science endorsement will be required to take and pass the state test of computer science content knowledge. The department is recommending the proposed cut scores you see on this slide. Department staff have reviewed the multi-state standard setting study for each of the cut scores and agree that these cut scores align with our expectations of teachers entering the science education field in New Jersey. The cut scores are based on revised assessments for each of the endorsement areas and not the same assessment that are used for current cut scores. I'm going to take a minute to provide some context on the test development and cut score decisions. So revised praxis tests covering the same content area may have overlapping content for this. The scores from each of these tests cannot be compared. The revision process results in an updated test that is entirely different and measures the content areas in new ways. Practicing educators participated in multiple aspects of the revision process. They determined which content should be measured more, less, or which content should be added or removed. Additionally, the weighting of the content will also reflect the current practices of educators in the field and how that relates to candidates training to be future educators. After the revised test is developed, the standard setting study is conducted with panels of practicing educators who make their score recommendation based on what the current test is measuring and is based on their up-to-date expertise in the professional expectations of a beginning educator. To support the decision-making process for education agencies, establishing a cut score for a new or revised praxis test, research staff from the test vendor design and conduct multi-state standard setting studies. Each study provides a recommended passing score, which represents the combined judgments of a group of experienced educators. The test vendor provides a recommended passing score for the multi-standard setting study to education agencies. Standard setting methods are selected based on the characteristics of the praxis test. The established cut scores are not revised or changed by the vendor unless there is a change in standards, test title, test content, or any other element. So the resolution that you're considering would adopt the revised assessments and cut scores effective September 1st and expiring the existing tests as of August 31st. Thank you. We welcome any questions.
At this point in time, we'll take any questions.
Could you just say that last sentence again, that,
Yeah.
how long this is?
The cuts, so if we proceed in the resolution, the existing tests and cut scores will expire on August 31st, and the new tests and revised tests will begin September 1st.
And they're valid as long as the test is the same one utilized in New Jersey?
Correct.
Okay. Are there questions at this time?
Are there other states that are also using these exact cut scores?
Yes. I do have a list of them, but yes, there are many states that have adopted the exact same recommended cut scores.
And many states use ETS, which is our state vendor. And so this process, through ETS is a similar process that many of us who are in this room who have certifications have gone through. And it is part of the regulatory process that they go through, that as new tests are developed, new standards are adopted in states, they have to respond with new tests. And so this is what we're asking the State Board to consider, that there are 5 new examinations that will take place because standards have changed, that they have identified and passed on to the states that they support.
So everyone who's using, if I could just continue with your thought, everyone who's using ETS for these particular subject matters to be tested, they're all being recommended to use this score, this cut score.
The only state that chose to lower the cut score was Mississippi.
Madam
Everyone
President,
else uses the recommended cut score.
Sir?
there's a hands raised here, and I'll yield to Ned Johnson and Dr. Johnson, and then I have a question that'll follow Dr. Johnson since he raised his hand before I did.
I don't see Dr. Johnson's hand. Is it?
I just put it down, but
Oh,
could you
Thank
please
you.
ask Mrs. Berry to stop reading my mind and asking my questions before I do?
So I'll go ahead and ask my question. And that is, for the new computer science endorsement, correct me if I'm wrong, in the past, we did not have a computer science endorsement, and therefore there was no real means of identifying what teachers were qualified to teach computer science materials. Is that accurate?
Mr. Ponte, can you just repeat the question one more time? I just want to make sure we hear you so we can answer it.
For the new computer science endorsement, in the past, since we didn't have this certification, were there a means of determining whether or not teachers were effective and or certified to present this material? Specifically towards
Thank you. So Board Member Aponte and board members, prior to having this particular cut score, we utilize the expertise of the teachers in their district, with each district making the most appropriate placement of teachers given their current credentials to support learning. So that is how the implementation took place until Chapter 9 was updated. And so now we have a pathway forward for the individuals who have taught computer science, as well as those who want to now begin teaching computer science, and those who have taught it can be grandfathered in. And so that is how we have addressed this need in the past.
Great, that's helpful, and I think it's helpful for the those who are providing this instruction to receive certification and be acknowledged for their work and leadership in this area, which is critical to economic development in the state of New Jersey. So I really pleased to see certification being offered.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
did you have another comment at this time yet, Arcelia?
No, I just had
That, okay. No, I've been a big proponent
during my tenure on this state board that we do more with computer science and coding, and I'm so glad, I believe Governor Murphy's put a lot into this and money to back up the study of it for our institutions around the state, because other countries are doing this, and it's high time that we also lead the country in doing so. So, thank you. That's my thought. Anybody else at this time?
I just have one final cut score question. So Mississippi lowered their cut score. Were any other states, are you aware of, that raised the cut score?
None that I have.
None.
Most adopted the recommendation from ETS.
So just to clarify again, ETS doesn't have input on the cut score. They're just making the recommendation based on what was brought to them.
That's correct.
As
It's up to the respective states
Right.
to determine for
Okay.
themselves whether they accept that recommendation or, in Mississippi's case, not.
Could I ask you just for a little bit more clarification on the rollout of the implementation of the new assessment? I know it would be effective September 1. So if you're taking the practice anytime from now until then, whether you pass or don't pass is based on the old standards. When does the new test begin? Like, say I take the test at, August 30th. I'm just out of luck. I have to have the higher one, and then the new test would start September 1st. Is that? So
It would be in,
you have
yes.
to take it September 1st.
So, correct. And I want to make sure that it's not misinterpreted that it's a higher cut score. It's a different test.
Right, it's a different test.
Yes. So the test would expire, not be available at all to our New Jersey candidates.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If it's possible, maybe you could at a future time generate to the board which states are also utilizing this and which scores they're utilizing.
Yes, and after July 17th, there will be many more that have adopted the cut score. So I can give you now or wait until after July 17th.
So we'll wait and give it to you.
After
Great.
July
Yeah,
17th.
yes, we'll give you the comprehensive
Great.
list.
All right, thank you. And then I believe you have more on this to follow? No?
That's the appendix, so that was just information for the state board.
Okay. Okay, thank you. How about any other questions from our board members about this recommendation? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much. I believe we have no work session to discuss some items. We do have new business that Commissioner Dr. Alan McMillan would like to bring up.
Yes, thank you very much, President Goldenberg. I would like to just update the board and the public on our efforts to continue to pursue the use of ASVAB as a second pathway for high school graduation. A brief recap is that we are currently unable to include ASVAB as a pathway as we had in the past, but we are engaged in conversation with the Department of Defense, and we are also working to understand how we can, over time, possibly gain access to the data. So it is not a lost cause, and I know people are very concerned about it, but we wanted to be forthright and give you the information as we currently have received it, which is that it is unavailable, but we are optimistic that it may change. And we have also provided ample time for students to look at additional pathways under the guidance of their educators. So we believe that this will not thwart anyone from achieving their goals, and are very excited about our efforts to get us to a place where we can utilize this assessment once again. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to update the board and the public.
You. Thank you very much. Is there any other new business at this time?
Well, actually, in the beginning of the meeting, it would have been new business. Now it's probably old business, but we don't have an old business topic. So I just wanted to say thank you and Andy for agreeing to continue in your leadership roles. You've been magnificent all along. I certainly don't want to do it. And it's a huge commitment, and you are exemplary at it. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for continuing.
That's very kind. Thank you very much. I'm honored. Thank you. Thank you. I see Arcilio has his hand up, and I see Dr. Ricca was first, I believe.
That's correct.
Please.
I'll defer to Mr. Aponte.
Okay. Well, thank you,
Okay.
Dr. I'll just echo what the just mentioned. Thank you very much, Madam, for your leadership, and look forward to working with you, Vice President Mulvihill, and the rest of the year. My question is directed towards the Commissioner. Thank you very much for providing the overview of where we are, the gifted and talented programs across the state. I appreciate that. Wondering, Commissioner, if it be possible for your team to present either in August or September, just the highlights of where we are with gifted and talented and participation of the programs. I think it'd be important for the general public to be aware of.
Yeah, I'm not connected. This is Jack Finaro, board member. What is Diane's cell phone?
Diane's in the meeting, Jack.
You and thank you. And Mr. Aponte, we will work on your request.
He did not.
To prepare. Yes, to prepare a presentation to the state board.
Thank
And
you.
it continues to.
Thank you.
Like I'll provide his number.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry.
Thank
Commissioner.
you. So I believe Mr. Aponte, at this time, we have a commitment for August or September to get that
Yes, we
information.
will work on getting that together. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. And how about, Joe Ricca has his hand up again. So Dr. Ricca, you have the floor.
Well, thank you very much, Madam President. And I also just want to congratulate and thank you for your continued service to the Board of Education and the children and the families in the state of New Jersey. It is a tremendous effort. So thanks for that. Commissioner, I also want to thank you and the department team for your update related to the ASVAB and where we are in that process. Really do appreciate you following through with this and also pulling on many different levers to try to identify and receive the information that you need.
This is
Mr.
crazy.
Fornaro, you're not, there you go, buddy. It is really, I think, to the benefit of the children and also the United States military service branches to fully vet this and explore it. And I just want to offer my thanks. I know you guys have been working really hard on that. Thanks, Madam President.
Thank you, sir. And thank you very much. Appreciate it. And for bringing this matter to all of our attention faithfully. Thank you. Anybody else at this time? How about our new student representative? Thank you so much. And thank you. I would like to please ask at this time for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Motion.
Thank
Second.
you, Board Member Barry, and thank you, Dr. Ricca, for the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of this month, and we'll see you in August. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.